Hey kids, Cousin Rich here, and welcome to the first episode of the reboot of Multiverse of Nerdness, the show where we talk about everything outside of the Disney universe. So stuff like Star Trek, Ghostbusters, My Little Pony, He-Man, and today's topic, DC. That is DC Comics, and more specifically, the DC movie universe. So join us on today's episode of Multiverse of Nerdness. Welcome, Loren, to the first reboot of Multiverse of Nerdness.
Woohoo!
And hopefully by this time I would have recorded an intro. So that'll be that.
Yay.
Yeah, so I think we tried this before to do stuff outside of Disney, but there was like weird time things and subject matter thingies. So if we work the show, so every show is gonna be about one specific topic, and there'll be a rotating co-host. So today you're here because one, you know a lot more about DC, I think, than I do. Well, comics in general, I think.
I think I
than
know
do.
more about all the other characters, but you're a much bigger Batman fan than I am.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I wanted to start with just like, so what is your connection to DC Comics?
Well, back in the 50s, I used to work. No, I'm just kidding.
Welcome to Bob Kane.
I mean, it's the same with Marvel Comics. When I was younger, I read DC Comics religiously. My two big titles were Legion of Superheroes and Teen Titans because they were younger superheroes, so I totally related to them. And of course, Super Friends, who can forget that, with its iconic theme song. And I mean, like, call it campy, but I loved those heroes. Like, they were, they did no wrong, and that's the thing that I loved about it. Was that they were just heroes. So, and then I just continued to read comics, and I loved reading all of the different titles. And some of my favorites later on in life were Flash and Wonder Woman. And there's a title that we're going to talk about today, The Authority, that I read religiously as well. It's been so long that I can't remember everything, but I loved that title, so I'm excited about that. That's Wildstorm, which is owned by DC. But even just all those Charlton heroes. Oh, and Crisis on Infinite Earth. I remember my friend Chris Lowe and I would just sit like in his room and like map out the whole thing, and it was just so good. Just such a it was such a The 80s to me were the most glorious time in DC Comics. 70s and 80s, huh?
I agree with that. I think like the 80s for me is also the like the golden years of movies, right? That's where we got the Goonies, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones.
Yep.
Most of the Star Wars stuff, and then even TV shows like
E.T.,
the A-Team,
the A-Team, yeah,
Magnum PI.
So much goodness.
Yeah, there was such a good creative thing going on in the 80s. But like, my thing with DC Comics obviously started because of you. You gave me a whole bunch of comics, and before Marvel, DC was the one I read most. Like the only things in Marvel I knew were Spider-Man, really, when I was a kid, and that's mostly also because of the cartoon.
Yeah.
But Batman, Superman, they were my jam. Teen Titans. I started reading comics when Robin became Nightwing. That was like around the era like I was reading. So I that's the kind of like I knew Robin obviously from Super Friends and the Batman 66 show.
Yeah.
But you know, so for most of my comic career, I don't even call it comic reading life, Dick Grayson has been Nightwing.
Yeah.
And then and then I stopped reading for a little bit. Then I got back into it when the '89 Batman came out. Tim Burton's Batman came out, but I got really
Hmm.
into Batman at that point. And that's also the same around this time that they introduced Tim Drake as a new Robin, and I was like, he became my definitive Robin for the longest time.
And
Like
they
Dick
had the
Grayson,
animated
yeah,
series.
like Dick Grayson, yeah, but like to me, he's always been Nightwing, right? The former Robin, but then Robin kind of was Tim Drake to me.
I get
Um,
it.
yeah, and then life goes on. I haven't read
Hmm.
comics for a very long time, and then New 52 happened, and then
And then,
yeah,
yep,
and then
yep.
the whole Marvel thing happened in the cinematic universe, and we were hoping to get DC movies, and we did, and they weren't
But they were
great.
the same thing over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah, uh,
And Martha and
yeah, and weird Flash, but but this week, um, we got some news because, well, months ago it was released that um, James Gunn and Peter Safran were taking over DC Comic Studios.
hmm.
So they would be essentially the Kevin Feige for DC.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a job I would have loved, but not really, because they had to deal with such a mess
Oh
that
yeah.
nothing they can do would please everybody. Like, there's a lot of controversy going on because Henry Cavill's no longer Superman, and you know
The Wonder Woman
Ezra
3 was canceled.
canceled,
And yeah.
and like the studio's still backing Ezra Miller and all those kind of things. But James has just been promising that before February he would lay out at least part of his plan.
Hmm.
And of course, he waited until January 31st to do so.
Yeah.
And then he laid out what he's calling chapter one of the new DCU, which is a difference because everyone's been kind of calling it the DCEU, the DC Extended Universe.
Hmm.
And he's flat out not even said that word. It's the DC Universe. And his plan is basically to unify the universe um, through games, movies, and TV shows. Um, but there needs to be a reboot of sorts, and he does mention that, right?
Hmm.
They're working on an 8 to 10 year plan, so this sounds very much like the beginning of the Marvel universe, where they
Yep.
kind of had Kevin Feige kind of laid out 8 to 10 years in the beginning. Um, and what he wants to do is use the tentpole diamond characters, he calls them, like Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, to introduce some of the lesser known characters, which is something I think both of us have wanted DC movies to do because there's
Yep.
such a rich variety of characters, but they keep going back to they keep going back to Batman.
Yeah. And then in the
Yeah,
meantime, we've got, Rocket and Modoc going on in the
yeah,
Marvel Cinematic Universe, that characters that, we never expected to actually happen are
yeah,
happening, and people are like, and like I said, people fell in love with an android falling in love with a witch and
yeah,
having two kids. And
yeah,
and it's like, before that was just comics logic, but
yeah,
people bought it, and it's amazing to me. And I think DC could totally do the same. They just need to get there.
yeah. Like I know this is the Castle Capes and Clones channel, but I secretly always wanted DC to beat Marvel if there was a competition. Only because
Hmm.
I my childhood is so tied to Marvel or to DC.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we both get so angry at DC movies because we're like, it could be so much better.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? But yeah. during this whole week, he's had to, like, James Gunn mostly has had to also field the controversies, right? And well, the biggest one to me is Ezra Miller. Um, as you know, Ezra Miller's had some issues.
Yes.
He is what the exact so Ezra Miller's been, I think he beat up a fan or
Yeah, he
robbed people, or I don't know what he did. There's a
I
lot of
think he did
weird stuff,
both.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And what he said about, I don't know if he said it or the studio said it, but it was pretty much kind of like, Ezra's working on himself and trying to heal and all these kind of things. And so they haven't committed to a yes or no with Ezra Miller. And
Hmm.
I think it's because the movie still is coming out. So they don't want to denounce him now. It's because they pretty much said once he's better, uh we'll talk and see where they're at that point, which means to me the movie will come out and then they'll have talks.
Yeah, because the way that they made it sound to me was that what Flash will reboot the universe.
Yeah.
And so um I don't know if that means that they're going to reboot Flash. They're not rebooting everybody because I think Jason Momoa is still Aquaman, and for all I know, Gal Gadot is still Wonder Woman. Um, and
Yeah, we don't know.
so, huh?
Yeah, that's some of the things we don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't know at this point.
Yeah. But I think they're just gonna wait until, because if they do say like we're dropping Ezra Miller now,
Hmm.
and I think this reboot of the whole universe hinges on the Flash movie that he's a star of,
Yeah,
they're gonna wait until after that movie comes out, and then we'll know if whether or not Ezra Miller continues to play Flash or
right.
not.
I think they
Uh,
put so much money into that thing. I mean, that Flash has been under production
6 7 years.
for a long time.
Yeah. So, we'll see what's going on later with that. But like the weird one that popped up for me that he had to field questions about was Zachary Levi. Um, for making an off comment thing about Pfizer, where
What
then
did he say?
people,
I didn't hear what
someone
he said.
asked, is Pfizer like the worst thing ever or something like that, paraphrasing, right?
Yeah.
And then Zachary Levi pretty much said yes.
Mm.
Now, the problem is that people took that to mean that he's an anti-vaxxer, yada yada yada.
Oh,
I took that to mean like Pfizer's a
he's
big pharma company.
big pharma. Yeah,
And
that's
yes,
what it sounds like. It would
right,
sound like to me.
like sure they came up with a vaccine, but they're still a pharmaceutical company that, and not to get too political, but they charge an arm and a leg and more, like your mother's arm and leg also
Hmm.
for medicine. So I get what he's trying to say, and people just want to cling on to anything. Like Zachary is, he's definitely like a very very Christian person, and he'll talk about it all the
Hmm.
time. But he's never been someone who will, at least in the interviews I've seen, like he's not going to try to change your mind. If you are an atheist or agnostic or whatever, he's not here to be like you must follow the ways of God and whatever. He's like, cool, do you,
Yeah.
right? But if you ask him about his own faith, he'll go on, because he's had some issues and he's had to, deal with them, and he found faith in what he has faith in, and it helps him, and good for him.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but like James Gunn had to then say something like, I'm going to make a lot of movies, and whether or not an actor says something I agree with or don't, unless they are like morally incomprehensible, it's not going to really going to affect anything,
Yeah.
right? which should be the case. Like, people have different opinions unless you're like a murderer. I mean, that's
Right.
where people clung on to the Ezra Miller thing. Like, he did so many bad things that how come, he's not denouncing Ezra Miller, and I'm pretty sure it's because they have a multi-million-dollar movie hinging on him.
Right. And I'm sure that is dictated from Warner Brothers itself, because
Yeah.
I think, they again sunk so much money into this thing that they can't just then they can't just go back to square one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. I mean, it's a tough thing. You know what I mean? It's like Kathleen Kennedy with
Yeah.
Star Wars. She could do anything and people would get upset,
Yeah.
because she's not George Lucas, and in some cases because she's a woman.
Yeah.
I that's a me saying that, but
Right.
just hearing some of
I
the
mean, that
comments that
is,
other people make.
yeah. They'll deny
Yeah,
it is because of that, but we know it is.
yeah,
Like, people will use any other excuse, but they can just come off as misogynistic and whatever.
yep.
Anyway, but yeah, so James Gunn released a video earlier this week laying out his plans, and he started with addressing um, kind of the projects that aren't going to be things that he's worked on. Um, and he's pretty much said that anything outside of the DCU plans will be labeled clearly as Elseworlds, which is a label they put on comics today. Uh,
That's their version of what if, basically.
yeah, so things like, oddly enough, like Matt Reeves' Batman, the
Hmm.
Batman, and the what he's going to do with it. The Penguin series, as far as we know, is still going on.
Hmm.
Um, they he did mention the Batman Part 2 will be coming out at some point. So, I thought maybe they would use the Batman to bring him into the new DCU, or DCU.
Hmm.
But I'm actually kind of glad they're keeping this version of the Batman
Yeah,
outside of it.
yeah. I mean, I liked the Batman, but I I didn't really like
Wasn't
Robert Pattinson. I'm sorry. I mean, like, he was okay as Batman, but once he was Bruce Wayne, I couldn't. All I saw was like the guy from Twilight, and he shouldn't be blamed for that because that was a role that he played, and
right.
it was a very iconic role. But it's just, I don't know, like, it's too. He just seems too young or something. Even if he was of an age, like physically of that age, his look is just not Bruce Wayne to me.
Yeah, I didn't have that
Yeah.
problem with him because I didn't watch any of the Twilight movies. So the only thing I knew him really from was Cedric Diggory from Harry Potter. He was a
And I
kid.
was team Jacob, not.
Nice. Um, but yeah, so this will be an Elseworlds movie. So I'm sure that that logo will be on there, or version of the Elseworlds logo, updated version, will
Mhm.
be on this. And we'll talk about it later, but there's a reason why I'm so glad that actually it's not, you know. Um, and does seem like instead of trying to piece together what he can, James Gunn is like, nope, reboot. We're just gonna go hard reboot on things.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, they're doing this at a good time because people are starting to understand what the multiverse is from Marvel, and
yeah,
then Everything Everywhere All at Once had multiverse in there, and people are all about the multiverse now. And so I think people will be able to say, okay, Elseworlds, that's another universe, got it,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah. And then speaking of other universes, the other one he mentioned was the Joker musical thingy. Um, which okay. I've never watched the Joker movie,
It's
nor
actually, I mean, honestly, it's a
yeah,
good movie. It's just not the Joker to me.
right.
It's not the Joker. Like, it's a different
It's a different take.
thing.
I get it.
But yeah, it's a different take. I guess it's a different take of Joker. But I mean, I thought that Joaquin Phoenix was fantastic in it.
Oh, I'm sure.
And yeah, I mean, I honestly think it's worth a watch.
I just have to get over it, and I don't know
Yeah.
if I will.
Yeah.
And nor do I think I have to, because it's not going to be part of anything. It's an Elseworlds
True.
movie, which means I don't really need to watch it to continue any
Understand everything
story
else.
of the DCU. So, you know, me, I've always been against, and this is why I don't like a lot of the DC movies now, is that they take characters, but they just use them in ways because they want to make a buck. To me,
Hmm.
like, I'm gonna make a Superman movie, but it's not gonna be Superman. I'm gonna make a Batman movie, but it's not gonna be Batman. Like, I just
Right.
want the name recognition, and I'm gonna do the story the way I want to, without even like, there's interpretations of the characters which Marvel has done. Not
Hmm.
every Marvel character we've seen in the MCU is a direct version from the comics, but they've kept to characteristics. They kept to, the essence of the character. Whereas Superman really has no resemblance to his comic version.
Hmm.
Barely, maybe 10%. And I think I'm
Yeah.
being generous at that, which is why I was never happy with it. And that's why the Joker movie, I'm like,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Maybe I'll catch it one day, but I don't feel at this point that I really need to watch it. Nor,
Well, I was saying, I wasn't saying to understand anything. It's just
oh no, I know,
more because it's like actually it is a good movie,
right?
just by standalone by itself.
Yeah, and my problem with that is that I'll always in the back of my head being, this is not Joker, this is not Joker. So it's gonna taint whatever opinion I have of it.
Hmm.
And I'd rather just not. If I'm not gonna have a good time, I'm not gonna force
Watch
myself
it.
to watch something, and that includes the second Joker movie, which the musical
There's a
version or whatever.
musical coming out
Yes, the sequel to this movie is a musical,
with Joaquin Phoenix.
and Lady Gaga.
Interesting.
I forget what it's. I think it's a French. It's like a French title, but it's the Joker 2, essentially.
Wow, so arty.
Right, right. Um, Other things that will probably fall into the Elseworlds is the Abrams and Coates Black Superman movie, which they didn't really mention, at least not in their presentation, but I think it's still happening.
Hmm.
But that's going to be an Elseworlds thing. And then they also mentioned Teen Titans Go, which I guess is still going.
Yeah,
I haven't watched that show for a long time, but cool.
yeah. It's yeah. I just saw like a TikTok ad for it.
Nice. I mean, like, for what it is, I like it. I like it enough. I just don't follow it.
Yeah.
Like, I think I saw the movie crossover with like the old show versions of themselves.
Hmm.
So, and they're entertaining. It's just, I haven't really kept up with it.
Yeah.
Things that did not mention, um, that I found interesting, because I don't know what this means, but like the Harley Quinn show that is still strong and keeps going.
Hmm.
So I'm assuming, since the new DCU includes animation, this might be considered an Elseworlds animated
Elseworlds. Yeah.
series. Um, but yeah, I only caught like the first episode. And it was funny enough or entertaining enough, but I just haven't really
Yeah, I haven't seen
kept
it
up.
yet.
I mean, it's very adult oriented, so It's not a
Yeah,
kid friendly
that's what I heard.
kind of thing. Yeah. And then also they didn't really mention Gotham Knights, which is the new CW show where Batman's kid, Batman dies. I think that's the premise is Batman dies, and I think they blame his kid. And I'm not sure if the kid is supposed to be Damian or not. But then he teams up with like, I know one of them is the Joker's daughter, and I don't know who the rest of the characters are, but like basically little kids trying to figure out who really killed Batman and then take over as kind of like the crime fighters of Gotham City.
Too many Batman shows. I'm sorry. Too many. I have. I just think it's too many.
So, but um, I wasn't planning on watching it, so who knows? But
Yeah.
it is still a thing. Um, Yep.
What about the other DC shows on CW, like Flash and Arrow and all that? Are they still
Well,
continuing?
the Flash series is ending. This is the last
Oh, okay.
season.
Oh,
And after that, it's just got this Gotham Knight show. Everything else got canceled,
canceled.
or ended. So Arrow
Right.
ended, Supergirl ended, League of Legends got canceled,
Mm.
Batwoman got canceled, Black Lightning got canceled. So this is why it's surprising that this show became a show, because
Right.
it seems to me like the CW Arrowverse, and I'm not even sure if this is an Arrowverse show. I don't know if it's in
Yeah.
that continuity, but I was surprised that they greenlit a new CW show as the old kind of Arrowverse shows were kind of coming to a close.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so the CW shows, the Arrowverse versions, I believe, are done after the Flash.
Okay.
Um, and then we do know that like Titans, Doom Patrol are ending. Um,
I'm sad about Doom Patrol. I still need to catch up to it, but I really did like that series.
so I heard Titans. I know there's fans of it. From
I'm not a fan of Titan.
my view of it, again, it stems from like the Titans are one of my, if not my favorite superhero team. And
Yep.
when I heard the premise and what they were doing, I'm like, no, I can't watch it. I can't
Yeah.
watch them destroy my favorite superhero team.
It's awful. And I tried. I
I
actually
know you did.
watched 2 seasons of it, and then they kept killing off the ones that I like. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, why don't you kill off the ones that I don't like? That would be a good thing. No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That show was just not. It's not the Teen Titans to me. It'll never will be
See,
the Teen Titans to me.
from that, I'm like, why is there so much death in the Titans?
Yeah, it, it won't
Yeah.
even be the Titans to me. Like because there is a team called the Titans and the Teen Titans. The Titans are like with Nightwing and all and Donna Troy and all them,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it was just not. It was.
Yeah. The
I
one
have
the,
I have feelings.
yeah. That's why I never started. Um,
Yeah.
the one that I'm kind of sad that they did, and mostly because there seems to be so much work done with it, and it seems to be the creators of this movie really, really loved it, and that's the Batgirl movie.
Yeah, and she
Um,
looked good. Like
she looked good,
the costume looked great, and
yeah. So, and
I don't know what the story was going to be about, but
yeah, um, and like the directors were the ones who directed Ms. Marvel.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And they didn't get to see it. They pulled the plug and they took out all the files and whatever.
Wow.
So it's kind of a sad thing, and I don't know what they can do with it now because of legal issues and
Hmm.
ramifications. But Yeah, that's the one I think that got canceled. That I'm like, I was kind of looking forward to see what this take on Batgirl was.
Yeah, I would have
Um,
liked to see that.
yeah, but this brings us to what is, we know that is coming out that James Gunn did talk about, and that
Hmm.
are the 4 movies that are already done or almost done because they're coming out like this year.
Yeah.
Beginning with um, Shazam: Fury of the Gods.
Hmm.
The new trailer came out a couple weeks ago. I was a fan of the first one, and I always felt like it didn't really fit in with the Snyderverse.
Hmm.
So, James Gunn even said like it's always kind of felt like its own corner. So I think
Yeah,
it can
its own
easily fit.
thing, but I really like the Shazam movie. I like the first one. I haven't seen the second one,
Well, yeah,
obviously, but
um,
I like it. Um, I like the tone of it,
yeah,
and I thought it was fun, which was something different for a DC movie, like that
yeah,
fun quality. You know what I mean?
yes, yes.
Um, and so I'm kind of sad that they're kind of going to brush it, to the sidelines after
Well, he
after.
hasn't said that. He said that like because it's not. He's never felt it was part of a DCEU, the Snyderverse,
Mm,
basically. He's like it fits kinda, but he didn't specify what that means. But I
right.
don't think he's considering it an Elseworld movie. I think he's considering it a part of this universe.
That would
Um,
be great.
because then this movie, he said, leads into
Hmm.
um, the Flash movie.
Yeah,
And the interesting thing about his words on the Flash movie, he says it's one of the greatest superhero movies he's seen.
that's interesting.
Right, and I feel like that's not a like I have to say this because of whatever, because he could have just said like he could have just said it's a good movie, but he was like he's really excited about this movie.
Yeah.
We do know that there were reshoots recently. I don't know if that those reshoots were already scheduled or these are newly scheduled to help do what it needs to do, which is what James Gunn said is to reboot the universe,
Yeah.
basically. Because we do know at some point, like Michael Keaton's Batman is supposed to be in this. Um,
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot
right,
about that.
yeah, because there's a trailer a long time ago that had thing like there's like multiple Ezra Millers in there, a different Supergirl is in there.
Hmm.
Um, so I wasn't looking forward to this movie, but because now of James Gunn and his saying like this is where I am curious now. I'm more curious about how they're going to do the reboot in this
Yeah.
movie. Like what does that mean? Um, like I still like I think it leaves it open to whether or not Ezra Miller continues as the Flash,
Hmm.
but I think it definitely means because I think what's going to happen is this movie opens up the DC's version of the multiverse,
Right.
right? And that's why you can have some of the actors from the Snyderverse and new actors from whatever is cast now.
Hmm.
Um, but there's that. But then he did say that this also leads into a movie that I almost forgot was coming out, and that is the Blue Beetle movie.
This one I can't wait for because I am a big Jaime Reyes fan.
Yeah.
They're doing the Jaime Reyes version. I'm
Mhm.
actually also a big Ted Kord fan, who's the original Blue Beetle from the Charleston comics, and then
Right.
into DC. And I kind of hope he's going to be part of this,
Yeah.
so that they can kind of introduce two characters, and especially because we'll be talking about a series coming up that I would love to see him in.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I like if you ever watch Young Justice, which is the
Mhm.
animated series of that's kind of the new the animated version of the Teen Titans, but not.
Yeah.
But they did introduce Jaime Reyes in that show, and I really like the way that they portrayed him.
Mm-hmm.
And like his version of the Blue Beetle is different than Ted Kord's version of the Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost is. It's almost like the blue Jaime Reyes is the black symbiote version of Spider-Man.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Right,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
right.
Is
It's like this. The Beetle is like a alien thing,
right.
and but they communicate, and one of them is a little bit violent,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not as like dark. It's a good. I really like the way they do it, and I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to see what they do with this. And I think it stars one of the people from Cobra Kai, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Um, but then after
Oh, I
this,
think I know who you're talking about. I think I know. I think
yeah,
yes.
I
I think you're
haven't.
right.
Now that I know that Cobra Kai is ending, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna start watching it.
I know. I need to watch. I haven't. I'm like behind a season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, because I always wanted to, I'm like, I always nowadays I'm like, I don't want to start a series and have it just like keep canceled and not be able to finish, and then I'll just be like,
Right.
basically, I'm afraid of another Firefly kind of situation. So, but it looks like I don't know what the circumstances is about Cobra Kai, but at least they know this is the last season, so they can end it,
yeah.
right? So I'll probably watch it soon, as soon as the new season's like almost done or whatever. But
Mm.
anyway, this will lead into Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom,
Yeah.
starring Jason Momoa. This is a
Yeah.
movie that was supposed to come out last year.
Yeah. Although it's probably because of all the COVID stuff and all that jazz. Um, so
Um,
I'm looking forward. I like Jason Momoa as Aquaman. I didn't
yeah,
think I would like him, but I do like him. And if they can get this thing under control, where they don't like overshoot the ending like they did the first one, it should be really good
I mean, we'll see. It was made still
in the
under
Snyderverse.
the old regime, so
Yeah.
we don't know. Like all I keep saying is look out for orange, and then once you see that orange pop up,
Hmm.
Snyder. Um, but what's interesting is that Jason Momoa posted recently, like the first time he went in to talk to Warner Brothers about Aquaman, he got really excited and posted like a woohoo. And
Oh,
then he
really?
posted again. He's saying like, I just went in to talk to James Gunn about DC. He didn't say exactly what he talked about, but he's like, my reaction is woohoo. So
Nice.
people thought that meant that he's probably not going to play Aquaman, but play Lobo, because that's
Mm.
another character I think he would fit definitely for.
Yeah.
But he might still continue to play Aquaman in the DCU, which
I
I'm
mean, they
okay
could
with.
use a lot of makeup on for Lobo.
Yeah. Um, so we'll see. I don't know. It wasn't clear, but it sounds
Hmm.
like Aquaman is still going to be Jason Momoa in the
Hmm.
new DCU thing.
Right.
Right. Anyway, that's kind of what's on the slate for this year, because Aquaman comes out um, December
Christmas.
25th, Christmas, right? So Shazam comes out next month, The Flash in June, Blue Beetle in August, and then this comes out in
On
Christmas,
Christmas Day.
and then the new DCU starts with the first thing that's coming out is going to be called Creature Commandos, an animated 7-episode animated show about these guys.
What?
About these guys.
Yeah.
It's a project that I think James Gunn was working on for a while, because I think they're really far along in the production of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Were you familiar with the Creature Commandos?
Yes. Yes. They were.
Yeah.
They were. Well, honestly though, I get them and the Howling Commandos, the like actual like howling like monster. The
Right.
Marvel has has its own monster collective, and that's what I think Werewolf by Night is like building up to something like that. With Elsa Bloodstone and all that jazz. But I do know of them. I'm not as familiar with them as I am the Howling Commandos. But I'm assuming it's the same concept. You got the monsters who are
Yeah.
heroes in their own right,
Yeah.
probably trying to,
Fight whatever. I
yeah.
think they said that this takes place in the 80s. So the original comic were exactly that, like monsters, like I think it was Frankenstein's monster,
Hmm.
werewolf of some sort, a vampire. I don't know if it was Dracula or not, but they fought Nazis and stuff.
Hmm.
But this will be the 80s, so I can't remember the names of all these, but I do know that the human looking dude is Rick Flag Sr., who,
Yeah.
if from Suicide Squad, is Rick Flag's father. Um, the Bride of Frankenstein in the middle there is supposed to be the lead character on this.
Hmm.
And then the Weasel from Suicide Squad is there, which I'm sure will be played by Sean Gunn. Um, the thing he said about like this show is that the voice actors, if these characters go to live action, will remain the same.
Yeah. I remember him
There'll
saying
be a
that.
continuity with that.
Hmm.
Um, but this is written by James Gunn. Um, I have the actual names of the people here. So Rick Flag Sr., Nina Mazursky, the Gorgon-looking fish person,
Hmm.
Dr. Phosphorus, I believe is a Batman villain of some
Yeah, I
sort.
think so.
Eric Frankenstein,
Frankenstein.
the Bride of Frankenstein right there, GI Robot, and then Weasel.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's interesting that this is the lead in to the new DCU, which
Right.
I'm all for, because I'm like, it's a group no one really knows about. It looks wacky, kind of weird,
Yeah.
and sets kind of a precedent for the DCU. It was like, you know, you're used to just Batman, but here there's other characters in this universe,
Right. Right.
and we're gonna go really weird first off with these guys.
Yes.
Yeah. The next thing that's coming out is a show on HBO Max, and that is Waller, starring Viola Davis.
Viola Davis. I mean, that's the nice thing is that she has consistently played that. And Viola Davis, she's like Angela Bassett, top notch.
which
You know.
which I just got reminded today that in Green Lantern,
Hmm.
Waller was played by Angela Bassett, and I
Oh
totally
my
forgot.
God, that's so funny. That's so funny.
Yeah, and they killed her off in that movie. They killed off,
I remember that. I remember that,
which was
but
a
I
dumb
forgot that
move.
was Angela Bassett.
Yeah. But this is a spin-off series of Peacemaker. So this is the Peacemaker slash Suicide Squad version of Amanda Waller. And will star Viola Davis and some or all of the most of the cast of the Peacemaker series. So definitely, I'm thinking Jennifer Holland, Danielle
Hmm.
Brooks, and then Steve Agee.
Yeah,
I don't know if John Cena will. I don't think so, but we do know that
maybe
this
he'll
takes
make
place
cameos or something.
right. This takes place before Peacemaker season 2.
Oh, okay.
So this will come before we get Peacemaker season 2.
I can't wait for season two. Peacemaker was one of the best comic book series that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So
Um, it's written by Crystal Henry of The Watchmen, the HBO Max Watchmen,
I haven't
and
seen it yet.
Jeremy Carver, who was a creator of the Doom Patrol series.
Okay, I'm for that.
Yeah. Um, and these are what they said were the appetizers to the DCU. These are the lead-ins to the
Hmm.
main event to kick off the DCEU or DCU, when that is Superman Legacy, which
Yeah.
this is the movie that will make or break this universe to me.
Hmm.
It's getting Superman right. And
Yes.
I think he has a better grasp on it, because this also will be written by James Gunn. He's working on it right now.
Hmm.
Um, and as the press release says, it says it's not an origin story, so we're not going to go through that again. But it focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. He is the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. He is kindness in a world that thinks that kindness is old fashioned.
Yeah. See, that is it right
Right.
there.
That's
He is
how I'm like,
kindness.
if
Yeah.
that's what they stick to, which I think the thing about James Gunn so far and everything he's said, he reverts back to not just saying the comics, but like comic creators.
Yeah.
Um, and I think he chose these specific images like with purpose, because this
Right.
comic series I actually liked. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me,
Yeah. It was
but like
All Star or something like that.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and it basically went back to the essence of Superman and
That was
Clark Kent.
Grant Morrison.
Was it Grant Morrison? I thought so.
Yeah. And oh, who's the artist? Oh my God. Very
Quite.
one of
Is it quietly or quite something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great series.
It's
It's
a
a
great
great
series.
series.
Yeah, yeah. They did part of it in the animated features. Um,
Hmm.
not all of it though. I don't think. I know part of that series, like that comics run, was done in animated form, but it's
Yeah.
really good. So, and yeah, just that little blurb about what the show is, or the movie
Hmm.
is Superman. You know, and that's what we didn't get with Man of Steel,
And
Superman.
this is the thing. It's like you look at Captain America, you look at Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
They got those characters right in terms of their, you know, like Wonder Woman when they win the little battle in that small town
yeah,
after being on the front lines and she's like walking around and she's just smiling
hmm
and it's like she knows she's done something good and I mean Gal Gadot, I honestly hope they don't replace her. Like I hope that you know that they continue to work with Gal Gadot because she was perfect. And just
yeah,
like Chris Evans was perfect as Captain America, they really got their characters. And if they can nail this description, then
yeah,
Superman will be good.
yeah. I think James Gunn can, like, he brings, like, yeah, people are kind of worried that's all going to be like Peacemaker, and I don't think
Right.
so, because if you look at Guardians of the Galaxy, there's a lot of heart in Guardians of the Galaxy,
Yes.
and that's why you like that movie. It's not because of the jokes. Well, I mean, part of it is, but like at the heart of those movies is a really good story about found family,
Hmm.
right? So I think he can pull it off. Like I
I
said,
think so too.
he seems to have more reverence for the characters than Zack Snyder did, who didn't really know the characters, and even David Goyer,
Yeah.
who totally doesn't understand characters.
Yeah. I mean, and we kind of also have to blame Jeff Johns for
Yeah,
this as well because he just let I don't
let
know if he let people roughshod him or if he just truly believed that
I think
being
so, 'cause,
the opposite of Marvel would be the best course. But
like, I get not doing it the same way Marvel did, but not at the expense of your characters,
no.
right? I mean, that's what James Gunn kind of said is like the old regime kind of let people take their characters and do whatever.
Hmm.
And that's not what he's gonna do. Like
Yeah.
he did say that story is the most important part, but
Hmm.
also, these characters, and I believe when he says it, these characters mean something to him. And you know that because he's not just talking about superficial Batman, Superman. Like, I like Superman as a kid. Like, he goes
Hmm.
dives into actual creators, like, and comic writers and artists,
Hmm.
right? So he understands that world, and I'm hoping that he's able to bring in creators who also understand the world they're trying to make.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then after this, it's not really so. They're calling it, instead of phases one and whatever, they're calling it chapters, right? So his first
Hmm.
chapter is going to be called Gods and Monsters.
Yes.
And he said everything he talked about in that presentation wasn't everything that they're going to do. So after Superman, which I believe is going to come out in July or June of 2025, the rest of these will at some point come out. But I don't know if
Hmm.
it's going to be right after or there'll be things in the middle or whatever. But the next thing he talked about was lanterns.
Hmm.
Now, this is not the CW show that they're working on.
No.
This is a whole new thing where, and it's gonna be a series on HBO Max, about two space cops, Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan, who are assigned to the Earth sector. And it's supposed to be like a True Detective style story. Um, have you never watched that show series? I don't know what that means exactly.
Which show?
True Detective.
Oh yeah, I've heard about it. I've heard really good things about it, but
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not sure.
yeah. Um, but he also said like this will be an important series because it'll introduce the overall, kind of like like Thanos and Infinity Stones were kind of in the background for a while until it all come to light. But like this is where you'll get the what's going on for chapter one, I guess, of these.
Hmm.
Um, I'm just excited that they're both in it, and they did say that there'll be smatterings of some of the other lanterns in it also, but the focus will be Hal Jordan, who, growing up for me, that was my Green Lantern, and John Stewart for younger audiences, which are now like also adults, would be John Stewart as Green Lantern.
Hmm.
So having them both, I feel like even though Hal is like the not funnier one, but the more happy-go-lucky lantern
Yeah.
between the two in comics, I feel like Hal might be the older lantern,
Yeah. Probably.
John being the new one. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how what their take is on this.
Right.
Um, I mean, can't be worse than the Ryan Reynolds thing, right?
Honestly, though, I like the Ryan Reynolds movie. I think I'm in the minority, but I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed parts of it, but overall, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about this.
Right.
Uh, but yeah. Um, and the one I think that excited me the most after Superman is the Authority.
Yeah, that's one.
Mostly, so the Authority was a Wildstorm comic, and
Hmm.
Wildstorm kind of came out around the same time Image did ish. And this was like Jim Lee's comic imprint,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Before it got acquired by DC, and now Jim Lee is um, CEO, co-CEO, something
I
over.
I don't know what his role is anymore.
He's up there.
Yeah.
Um, but like I never read the Authority. I know of them,
Yeah,
So
this
for
one I did
me,
read.
I don't know much about them, but I'm excited that it's a thing.
They are, to me, like the Squadron Supreme of the Marvel universe. But I mean, Marvel Squadron Supreme of the DC universe. Squadron Supreme was a team that kind of is more extreme than the Avengers. They've been rewritten many times, but the
Right.
original series of Squadron Supreme was my favorite because it took place in another universe, and that's kind of the way that this was. But I think that I think that they did an animated movie of the Authority,
Did
if
they?
I'm correct.
Hmm.
I don't know. I can't remember, but it was just really compelling, to see a team that was like so um in it to win it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm excited. So if they didn't say if this was the lineup, but
Uh-huh.
they showed this image, so I'm guessing it's gonna be similar to this. Because like I said, I don't think James Gunn picks random shots from
No.
comics. Um,
Midnighter and Apollo have to be part of it. They're just
right.
two, and they're a gay couple actually.
Yeah.
Um, and but they're like the Batman and Superman of the team.
Right. So Apollo being the one in the middle with a halo
Mm-hmm.
looking, or is that, I don't know what that is around him. And a
Like
Midnighter
an
is,
energy kind of
yeah,
thing.
Midnighter's on the bottom.
Yeah.
Other characters are Swift, the Doctor,
Mm-hmm.
Jenny Sparks, the Infineer. Is that
I
how it,
think it's an engineer.
is it engineer?
I think
Okay.
so.
Okay. And Jack Hawksmoor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this because I didn't know nothing about them.
Yeah. This should be
It's,
good.
it's similar to me like Guardians of the Galaxy. I knew of them, but I didn't know much about them. I knew a
Yeah.
little bit more about the Guardians of the Galaxy than I do about this group. But um, this adds to the whole like the DC universe is way bigger than just the few that we've
Batman
gotten.
and Superman.
Batman and Superman. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that we're getting and like because these guys are not the Justice League, people are
Mm-hmm.
like, we want the Justice League to be like probably what these guys are, right?
Yeah.
Um, but the Justice League's that's not the Justice League. I mean, that's why like Squadron Supreme is the Justice League, but if they were
In the Marvel universe.
Marvel Universe, but also if they didn't hold back. So
Yeah, they didn't hold back.
there's they're morally, I don't say gray, but they're not their morals aren't as stoic.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because the original story was about how the team was divided um, between those who followed Hyperion, who kind of said, "We just need to like do whatever is necessary to
Yeah.
like transform this country back or whatever," and
Mhm.
then what's his name, Nighthawk,
Nighthawk.
was against it because he felt like it was an invasion of people's rights. It's a great maxi series, 12-issue maxi series from the 80s. But after that, they kind of did this whole like morally gray kind
Yeah.
of team. And yeah, I think the Authority is very similar to me to them.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to have these characters and eventually the Justice League
Yeah.
um exist.
Yeah.
Right, because it's like, it's wanting the same things but having two different means,
Yep.
philosophies to it, which is very comic booky. I mean, like the X-Men is built off that. Charles Xavier and Magneto kind of want
Right.
the same thing, but they're just opposites on how they do it. Batman and Superman similarly, like they want
Yeah.
the same things, but their methods are just totally different.
Exactly.
Lesser Snyder. This next one is interesting to me because this is Paradise Lost, a
Yes.
Game of Thrones style series based in Themyscira with all the intrigue and political whatever. This is going to be before Wonder Woman is
Right.
born, I believe.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah. So yeah, I have no idea what's going to go on in this thing. There was a version of like Paradise Lost in the comics,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think it's that because Wonder Woman was part of that.
Yeah, I'm not sure, and I think Paradise Lost was an Elseworld story.
Yeah.
I think I can't remember now.
But this might, I mean, like, it's supposed to be before Wonder Woman, but I don't know if that means before she's born or if she's part of this before. I mean, she's just Diana at this point.
Yeah, maybe it could be that she's like a little kid or whatever.
Yeah. And establishes basically Themyscira for this universe.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be interesting to see what this story ends up being and who's in it and what does it mean by Game of Thrones style.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing it just means like all that kind of manipulation and like political mechanism, whatever between the two, like different factions of Themyscira.
I hope whatever they do that Diana isn't the product of Hippolyta and Zeus. Like, I just want her to be an Amazon, not a god killer, not a god, but a
Right.
Amazon.
Yeah. Bam. This one, and I know you're not big on Batman, but this is also very interesting
This sounds
because
pretty good.
they're going with the Batman. The introduction of Batman in this universe is going to be called Brave and the Bold, and it will feature Damian Wayne. Damian Wayne. I keep wanting to say Damon Wayans.
David Way.
Damian Wayans. Wayne. Yeah. Because like I was watching a bunch of things and people kept saying Damon Wayans. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, it's Damian Wayne. But now I'm like, wait. But yes. So for those who don't know, Damian Wayne is the son of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul,
Mm-hmm.
who Batman did not know he had for like 10 years, but he was brought up by the League of Assassins.
Mm-hmm.
His grandfather is Ra's al Ghul.
Very cool.
But yeah, and then I think this is also based on the Grant Morrison run that introduced him to comics.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find fascinating about this is that this is why I'm glad now that the Batman, Matt Reeves' version of Batman, is not the Batman we're going to get,
Mm-hmm.
because James Gunn also said this is also the introduction of the Batman family.
Right.
So in my mind, that probably means that at this point, we're not going to get the pearls again,
Mm-hmm.
because this is Batman older, because he has a son.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, this, I'm hoping that this means there is a Dick Grayson. He's moved
I
on to
hope so.
Nightwing.
Yeah.
And even though James Gunn said this is his favorite Robin, I'm still hoping my favorite Robin is in the universe somewhere leading like the Titans.
Right.
As I don't even care if you call him Red Robin now. Whatever. That's fine. As long as it's Tim Drake
Yeah.
doing it. Maybe we'll get a Batgirl, Huntress, spoiler, Batman Incorporated, whatever. But I think what's
Mm-hmm.
interesting about this take is that now this can't be just a Batman, an emo Batman, because now he has a son that is like a murder bot, just
Right.
wants to kill everything, and now he's got to be the one to show his son that there's a different way. And I think it brings, look, Robin's always been kind of the moral heart for Batman, and I think this is a different take on it where Batman has to own up and figure out how to teach that to his son as Robin. So I am looking forward to seeing what they do with this.
Yep. Me too.
And I know kid actors, it's a weird thing because who knows what puberty does to them. I think that's gonna be the hardest part is casting Damien. Like, do you cast a
You know,
10-year
though
old?
I mean, they have managed to get some good child actors that can be in that kind of position. Like Chloe Grace Moretz as Hit Girl is
Yeah,
amazing. You know,
right.
and yeah, they're. I mean, like kids stars these days are a lot less fluffy than they used to be.
It's not even that. For me, it's more like the whole like the Narnia kids. And
Yeah.
just the time between movies. Some of them just age faster than their characters age.
Oh, I see.
Right. So I don't know. I mean, like like this one, it's like if you start with a 10-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you have to get an amazing 10-year-old to do what Damien has to do,
Yeah.
right? Um, and if they plan out their stories well enough, they can just have them age normally. And it doesn't mean like, you know, if there's a sequel to Brave and the Bold, the next movie, he's not supposed to be a year older, but like there's time that has passed,
Yeah, it's gonna have to happen.
right? So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this version of Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And I get why. One, I get why they can't cast Ben Affleck because they need someone younger, like
Yeah.
old enough to be a father, but young enough to not be at his golden years.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Ben Affleck. But you know, um, but yeah, I just hope that when this comes out, people aren't like confused between the Batman and this Batman.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. You know, what like if people are able to. I mean, like I said, at least you know people are being introduced to the multiverse
Yeah,
through many
so
different ways.
yeah,
So maybe they will understand it.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Um, and I hope I do like I don't know what they plan for Batgirl, but you know, I hope they bring in what was it Leslie
Mm-hmm.
Grace, bring her in to give her
Mm-hmm.
another shot at being Batgirl because I liked at least I liked the look she had. But
Yeah.
yeah, after this, the Matt Reeves Batman does also come out.
Mm-hmm.
And recently, Matt Reeves did tweet that this run of the Batman is a crime saga, and he did emote with 3 bats. So there's speculation that he's planning on doing 3 movies.
Mm.
And there's still again the Penguin series with Colin Farrell
Yeah.
that is supposedly still happening. Um, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
And then another series will come out, and that is Booster Gold.
Yeah. This one I can't wait for. He
So
and Ted Cord Blue Beetle were two of
Blue and
my
Gold,
faves. Blue and Gold.
yes. Um, but yeah, so Booster Gold is a character who comes from the future with some tech. Goes back in time so he can be a superhero in the modern times.
Mm-hmm.
And James Gunn kind of said like it's basically imposter syndrome with a superhero. Um, he's definitely a more lighthearted, comedic ish character. Um, rumors that this is where Chris Pratt comes in, but I don't know. I feel like he might also age out if you want to continue doing this.
Mm-hmm.
But this is almost like this is another one that if this was done maybe 10 years earlier, people wanted Nathan Fillion to play Booster Gold.
Yeah,
But yeah, this should be a fun series.
definitely.
Right. He's a fun character. I'm glad we're getting a Booster Gold finally. I just wonder if Skeets is going to be in it.
Yeah.
Skeets is his little robot friend. And then after this comes a movie, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, based on a Tim King series.
Yes.
What they said about this is that while Kal-El was brought up by loving parents on Earth, Kara Zor-El grew up on a fragment of Krypton and saw all that she knew die, and now has to find her place in the universe. Which is kind of true. Like she was, depending on what origin you follow, but essentially she was sent to protect Kal-El, but was delayed or whatever for whatever
Yeah,
story you follow.
I mean, like there are versions where she gets trapped into the Phantom Zone.
Yeah.
There are versions where she's just adrift in space, and her body like uh doesn't grow old in space. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one too. I think this is going to be fun.
Yeah, James Gunn said this is more like going to be a sci-fi show. Yeah, this is where you can get your Superman kind of character that's not the goody two shoes, the truth, justice, American ways Superman that some people have an issue with. But this is Supergirl who saw some crap, has some issues. So I'm interested to see where they take this, because it sounds like this is going to be a cosmic story. And we're just trying to get more into the cosmic universe in Marvel, but like the DC cosmic universe is also kind of crazy. So
yeah,
maybe this is where we'll meet Lobo,
right,
at some point.
maybe.
Yeah. And then we have Swamp Thing, which is going to be like a horror movie. I can't remember if it's a movie or movie. Which is supposed to close out the first chapter. Kind of fitting for a chapter called Gods and Monsters. But who is the god and who is the monster? And from what I've heard, like James Mangold is being rumored to be sought to direct this film. And James Mangold directed Logan, and he's the one who did Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny that comes out later this year.
You ever see the series?
No, it's one of those things where it got canceled, so I'm like, well, I don't want to get into
that was a good
thing.
one too.
I heard though it was good.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do.
That it didn't. Yeah. And we're going to live in a universe where Swamp Thing and Man Thing are part of
a universe.
Yeah, their universes. But I mean, I'm talking about our own universe. It's crazy,
right?
Yeah.
This is what, like I said, this is what we wanted from DC all along. All these characters, like we still get our Superman and Batman, but now we got Booster, we got Blue Beetle coming, we got the Authority. Like just opening up the lanterns again. This brings in so many things they can do with this. And I kind of want to end this with a question for both of us, I guess. It's like, with this whole thing going on, what do you want to see in animation, in movies, and TV series from DC?
I mean, if I could have anything, and it could be an Elseworlds thing or maybe just an origin story, but I would love to see the original Teen Titans. Also, I would like to see the Legion of Superheroes. Those are my two I mean, those were my two comics that I started with DC, and I would love to see them do it right.
Yeah. Definitely for me, the Teen Titans. I am torn whether or not I want to see the original lineup that I started with or the newer ish lineup. Um,
And
and I
when
think
I'm talking
only
about the original, I'm actually talking about the original before Nightwing.
Dick Grayson, Wonder
Yeah, this is what
Girl,
I'm talking about. Yeah, Dick
Beast
Grayson,
Boy,
Wonder Girl, Speedy,
Speedy,
Aqualad.
Aqualad. Yeah,
Yeah.
my version only because of what's going on in the universe itself at the time
Uh-huh.
that might play this out would be Tim Drake, whatever Red Robin or Robin, whatever you want to call him,
Hmm.
Superboy, um, the new Wonder Girl, Raven, um, yeah. But I
Yeah.
also would like to see because like the animated series has like I like like a cross between what they do in Young Justice um and some other of the animated films where like some of the old Titans are teachers. Starfire,
Hmm.
I think in Young Justice, Red Tornado is like one of their
Yeah.
guardians. But you know, like then they learn from other heroes like Black Canary, Wildcat.
Excuse
Uh,
me.
but yeah, I want to see a Teen Titans movie or series. But
Yeah.
in animation, I'm still pushing to see this.
Oh my God, I would love. I loved Captain Carrot when I was younger. I think
Yes.
I still have all of the comics somewhere.
Do you?
I have to find them, but I
But
know
yeah,
I have them somewhere.
I would love to see.
Gotcha.
I would love to see this as an animated series,
Yes, that would be so fun.
and Captain Carrot meets Superman. Like I know the not this one, but like the actual Superman at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That
anywho.
would be awesome.
But yeah, that is the DC news. There's a lot, obviously.
Exciting stuff.
This kind of also why I wanted to start this up again because as much as we do love Disney and Marvel, we
Hmm.
do love, and even if you listen to our thing, we do talk about DC often
Yeah.
and compared to
Hmm.
Marvel. But you know, as more of these shows and movies and things come out, we do want to talk about them,
Hmm.
um, and we want to bring you along with us also.
Yep.
It's not to be a focus. I think maybe once a month, maybe we'll do this. Depends on what's
Yeah.
going on in the world. But we do wanted to have a kind of section of our channel to talk about things outside that interest us because we're going to talk about this anyway. So might as well share it.
Definitely.
Um, anyway, cool. Thank you for watching. If you guys have any comments about what we talked about today, please leave them down there. Or if you have anything you want us to take a look at that's outside of Disney, you know, TV shows,
Yeah.
movies, video games, we'll see. Um, there's a lot of stuff that are still in the nerd universe that we also watch and do. So leave comments below if you haven't already. Like and subscribe to our channel and hit the bell for notifications. For Multiverse of Nerdness, I am Cousin Rich, and always kind of maybe sometimes with me, my cousin and co-pilot Loren. I'll catch you on the
Thanks
flip
for
side.
joining us.
Yeah. Ba-dum.
Bye. I feel like I should say bye.